Coming up next on Making Moves, JTA launches its new Star Card. The authority is testing a new paratransit vehicle that could completely transform its service. A Florida legislator is pitching advertising on school buses. And we'll go back to the beginning, the surprising real story of how the Skyway came to Jacksonville. I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. Stay tuned for those stories and much more next on Making Moves. Welcome to Making Moves. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. JTA Executive Director and CEO Michael Blaylock is here in the studio. He'll be joining me in just a moment. Our top story, the launch of the new JTA Star Card. On our last show, we showed you the thousands of senior and reduced fare riders that lined up to get their Star Cards and photo ID. Then on January 30th, the official launch as regular fixed route passengers begin using their new Star Cards on JTA buses and trolleys throughout the system. With the new Star Cards come new fare boxes. Riders can simply tap and ride with the new system.
I find it more convenient than the old system because I don't have to always carry cash or a paper card. I like the hard plastic card. So it's more convenient and easy. And I like the fact that you can go to multiple places to get it reloaded.
And we are joined now by CEO and Executive Director of JTA, Michael Blaylock. Mr. Blaylock, things got a little sticky out there on that first couple of days when the Star Card was introduced. You know, people were a little upset, but all of a sudden they turned into volunteers. Isn't that amazing?
Well, you know, Joyce, I call it controlled chaos, if you will. I mean, it was new. It's a new technology. The public's, many of our customers are used to using some form of a credit or a debit card, and this technology is similar to that smart card technology. So it's just introducing this new technology, getting people to really understand how to use it, and really trying to understand the value of why it's important to have that card.
But you know, the response was overwhelming. They were there the first day. Nobody wanted to wait till the second day to come out. Everybody came out absolutely on the first day. But you know, when I was there, your staff seemed to really respond well.
Well, I think the staff really did a tremendous job. And Joyce, we also even got a couple of volunteers that people who were waiting was a part of this exercise actually volunteered their time to continue to work with us. So it was sort of a welcome experience for our customers, and the staff, like I said, did a great job of responding. You know, you can have a problem, but what happens is what you do with the problem once you learn of it. And I think they did a really good job of responding to our customer needs.
When you're trying to do something you've never done before, sometimes it's wise to get ideas from others who have already gone down the same path. And that's exactly what the Northeast Florida Regional Transportation Study Commission has done. The commission is working on a plan to grow transportation into a regional effort rather than having each of the 7 counties fighting for funding on their own. The 2-year study that was mandated by the Florida legislature is now just 10 months away from completion. The Regional Transportation Study Commission recently met for the 7th time. For this session, they're getting an insider's view on the pros and cons of putting together a regional authority. Officials like Bob Clifford from Tampa brought valuable knowledge that Tampa had to learn firsthand.
So you have to look at priorities from the perspective of what is best for the overall region. Sometimes that's a challenge in taking those steps to move forward.
With federal funding drying up, communities are being forced to step up and partner with other cities to create transportation ideas that are more comprehensive. While the panelists represent different regions, many of their thoughts were similar.
What we found in Nashville was people were competing for the same pot of funds, and if if you think regionally, you have a very concise plan, and you're not competing, you're all working together to get all the funds that could be available.
And what we're seeing in communities all across the country, in fact the world, is that they're developing highly integrated multimodal transportation solutions for their communities. And it means more than just the automobile. So we've got to provide people with options to get around.
We've got to become mobility managers, and we've got to touch people where their interest lies.
Overall, the panelists passed on encouraging remarks to our RTSC, saying that their work is headed in the right direction. With the observations from their peers, our commission hopes to avoid some potential potholes in the process.
What I'm most proud of, what I heard today, is that just how we really have our agencies working together, and which they said they wish they had.
Danny Leeper from Nassau County is also encouraged. Yet there are others who come to the meeting even though they're not on the commission just to get more information.
This is really great to start working on things and to be planning for the future instead of keep reacting. So again, instead of working on 5 years, 10 years, it's time for us to address 20 years, 3 years from now for our kids and for the other generation. It's really very important what we're doing here. And us as a Flagler County, it's really very important to be part of this discussion.
Former JTA board chair Ava Parker is chairing the study commission as they prepare to present their recommendations to the governor by December. Parker says there's still much to be done between now and then.
I think it's important to start socializing the idea now that, hey, we've got something better that's going to be great for the entire region. We've got something that's going to make our lives easier, be more affordable. You'll make transportation between our groups even easier.
With that thought in mind, we wanted to talk to the public about transportation. And while most people really don't know about the commission's work, we still wanted to find out what they thought about the concept of regional transportation.
We're really spread out, and we don't have enough support from the public actually using it. I think we need more support from the public to actually get to that point in the future where we see the light rail and we see the more buses and we see more frequent stops. We see, just so it's going to be more convenient even than having a car here.
And it's not just something that should be as a matter of necessity because you don't have a car or you don't have, it should be something that involves everybody, not just low income, middle income, high income. That if you're in a large city, a lot of times, everyone takes the subway or the bus.
Now, Mr. Blaylock, I was there, and it was just amazing what was going on in that room with those panelists. But one of the things that a lot of people are going to be asking about is, number one, there are only 11 months left to go. What else does this commission need to do in that time?
Well, we got a lot of work to do. Joyce, has been under a tremendous effort. All of the 7 counties working together, trying to find a common ground in terms of how we look at building our transportation system throughout Northeast Florida. So 11 months, what we've got to produce in the next 11 months is a menu of funding options. So from the degree of what transportation projects are developed or defined or prioritized, they have to be financed. And so we're going to be looking at giving and presenting a list of funding opportunities for the counties to look at. And then the other part is, how do we implement such a grand plan? How do we make it all work? How do we make it all come together? So what would be the appropriate governance structure or implementation structure? So the commission has a lot of work ahead, but the way that they're going now and the fact that they are really collaborating very well together, I think it's going to be a good product at the end of the day.
And one of the things I heard Chair Parker say was that we had to start marketing now rather than waiting until the end of the process in December and then try to market to the public.
Well, and that's what I said earlier, that they have a lot of work to do, and a big part of that is going to be a lot of community outreach, where the commission will be going into the counties, where the citizens of those counties can weigh in on what their thoughts are. So it's going to be a lot of work involved in terms of that community outreach, not only with the citizens, but of course the business community. And the business community will play a very vital role in terms of how this thing comes together.
Absolutely, and of course we'll be following that very closely as the year progresses. And you're probably used to seeing advertising on JTA buses. It's an important revenue generator for JTA and other transit agencies. But now one Boca Raton legislator is proposing that the state's school districts get into that act by selling naming rights to its facilities and selling ads on its buses. Representative Herb Schlossberg says that it's a way to raise revenue without raising taxes, increasing fees, or even cutting education. If passed, the naming rights bill will take effect on July 1st, 2012. Of course, we want to know what you think about this idea. Should local school districts be allowed to sell naming rights and advertising on its school buses? And if they do, if any restrictions should be imposed on the type of advertisers? Email us your thoughts at makingmovestv@jtafla.com or leave a comment on our Facebook page. So, Mr. Blaylock, when you think about this, it's really not a new concept because I've actually seen it in other states and in other cities. But what kind of impact do you think it's really going to have potentially on JTA?
Well, it's going to be kind of interesting. I'm going to see how it turns out, because one of the things that we have in this particular district, the school buses are owned by the private companies. So, so there's another hurdle in terms of who shares in that revenue. I don't know just what the impact might be to the JTA in terms of, because our buses are out there all day. And the school buses are basically peak hour in the mornings and the afternoon. So we offer a better product in terms of visibility of our system. So it's going to be interesting, but I think they've got some real questions they got to get resolved, because even if you generate additional revenue, who shares in that revenue in that? The school buses are owned by the private companies. So, I do understand what the legislature is doing in terms of trying to generate more income for our educational system, and which is, we're far behind in terms of contribution to our educational costs. So I can understand that, and but I don't know that it's going to have that big of an impact on our system. But it's something that we will follow.
But even as a parent, I would definitely question what kind of advertisement I would want on a school bus.
Yeah, they're going to have to think that through, because we have restrictions in terms of what we can allow on our buses. So they've got some hurdles to get over, and it'd be interesting to see how it turns out.
Another story we'll be watching very closely.
Well, the easiest thing to do is just let's try to find more money for education.
Absolutely.
That's the way
Much
to do it.
easier. A couple of months ago, JTA board member Cleve Warren was enshrined into the First Coast Business Hall of Fame. Now Jacksonville Mayor Alvin Brown is hoping that Warren can help solve some issues with the city's Economic Development Council. Warren will be a part of a new 7-member task force that will examine Jacksonville's economic development efforts. Mayor Brown said that the task force's main goal is to assure that the most productive future for economic development in Jacksonville, and it will be doing so with the highest level of compliance. And Mr. Blaylock, once again, you have board members who are serving in other capacities.
Just again, that's really tremendous. And, economic development, really, I tell people a lot of times, Jacksonville is sort of the unofficial economic developer in this region. When you think about the type of facilities, the roadways, the bridges, the transit system that we're providing, you're getting people all kinds of access. You're providing access, you're creating opportunities for either further development. So having Mr. Warren being tapped by the mayor to serve on this task force, I think is tremendous, because I think it's well in line with what our mission is.
Absolutely. Well, JTA's paratransit division, formerly known as Connection, is testing a new vehicle to transport the thousands of customers that use the service each month. The new vehicle offers advantages that current vehicles just can't match. JTA's Bill Milnes has more on that story.
This is the MV1. Made in Indiana by American General, it's one of the only vehicles of its type designed specifically for paratransit use. So the JTA brought in one of the new MV1s to run it through its paces. For an entire week, JTA's paratransit team looked at everything from gas mileage and drivability to passenger comfort and more.
The vehicle can get into a lot of areas where a little bit larger vehicle can't. So our operators seem to like the fact that the ease of the maneuverability of the vehicle is much better than some of the larger vehicles.
Fuel economy is a key factor when looking at any new vehicle. Powell says when it comes to gas mileage, the MV1 far outperforms its current fleet by about 2 to 1. The MV1 features a rollout ramp rather than a lift for faster and easier loading and unloading of passengers in wheelchairs and other mobility devices. It has space for a driver and up to 5 passengers, including 1 wheelchair. Edward Combs is one of the drivers who tested the MV1. He described it as the perfect vehicle for paratransit users.
This vehicle, you got a wheelchair that's right beside you. It's more comfortable. You can have like one-on-one conversation with them instead of having to yell across the vehicle to try to talk to somebody. I find it very easy to get in and out of. It's real easy for the wheelchairs to get in and out of. I mean, it's just pretty much a perfect vehicle.
JTA is reviewing all of the test data from the week-long trial period and will decide in the very near future if the MV1 is the paratransit vehicle of the future for the authority. On the south side, Bill Milnes, JTA, making moves.
And we're back with Mr. Blaylock. What did you think about this new vehicle?
Well, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the problem we have, Joyce, is the type of vehicles we're purchasing now. They have a 5-year life. And after 5 years, and in our case, in some cases, 4 years because of the wear and tear on the vehicles. So we got to find a more durable vehicle that can be on the road a lot longer and not have as many of the failures that we have with some of these what we call truck chassis vehicles that we're purchasing now. So we've been in the market for a while to try to find something that has a longer life and more comfort for our customers getting in and out of those vehicles. So we, it's either this vehicle, but we are just determined to find another a vehicle that can be more comfortable for our customers.
Okay, so is it likely that we're going to get it, and do we have a timeline?
Yeah, we're trying to get it all done, at least have the orders placed no later than this summer. And so we're just kind of doing an evaluation of this particular vehicles and others. And so however they surface up in terms of pricing and durability, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, then that's the direction that we're going that we're headed in. And for our customers, I mean, they're just waiting for new vehicles, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. And the Skyway has been part of Jacksonville's skyline since the late 80s. But whose idea was it to build the People Mover, and why has it failed to meet ridership expectations? Making Moves correspondent Terry Casey looked into those and other questions surrounding Jacksonville's most vilified transit option. What he found out might just surprise you.
The automated monorail system we know as the Skyway came to life in the late 80s when the first segment, less than a mile long, opened near the convention center.
But it was put in motion years before, and if you dig deeply enough, you can trace its roots all the way back to Jacksonville City Hall.
Steve Arrington is JTA's Resource Development Chief.
Well, it all started with consideration by the city planning department in terms of methodologies of solving certain traffic, parking, and transportation issues in the core city.
There were more studies. Then in the mid-70s, the head of the Federal Urban Mass Transit Administration came to town, urging the city to compete for grant money to build a People Mover.
And it actually asked the city to consider participating because of our past work in that technology.
It was sort of an experiment. The feds wanted to find out if high-tech people movers might help spur economic growth in downtown areas of Jacksonville and other cities. The grant money would go to help with construction costs.
The city liked the sound of it, applied for the grant, and got it.
The application was a city effort, and the city formally asked JTA to take charge of the project.
A government-mandated citizens committee studied plans for a year and a half. The verdict?
Well, the citizens group, along with a multi-agency task force, all concluded from the feasibility study that it was a desirable technology to apply to the transportation issue here in Jacksonville, and recommended that JTA proceed.
So Jacksonville got its People Mover.
I don't think the idea was bad.
Duval County School Board member Tommy Hazuri, a former Jacksonville mayor, was in the Florida legislature when all this was going on.
I think it would work, even as it is today, if you had jobs downtown, if you had people living downtown. And when you talk about jobs and people, it's a chicken and egg. You can't have retail without people. You can't have people without retail.
Skyway ridership had a rough go from the start.
The numbers that they based it on were, projections. And of course that was at the time in the 70s when the recession was in and out both times, much like it is today, much like it was in 1990.
1990 is when a perfect storm struck just as the Skyway was getting started. Downtown's main employment base was hit by a combination that included job losses tied to the recession, job movement from corporate relocation,
So downtown lost some 12,000 employees in less than 5 months time period.
and growth and development that transitioned from downtown to the suburbs.
That's our biggest tax base, and we've lost that. I always felt that if you had a Skyway or a people mover, it should come from the suburbs, Mandarin to downtown, the airport to downtown, the beaches to downtown, not from downtown and just go around town.
You've got a technology that requires a guideway. That's not cheap. The concept was that the system would be extended as the city grew, but the long-term plan really called for more of a light rail or like a BRT, or it would be more of a dedicated service line as a line haul type commuter system, but would not necessarily be an automated guideway transit system.
So much depends on whether city leaders can infuse new life into downtown, commercial and residential.
And that's what I think it's going to take, and I think it's going to happen.
Our issue is both one of responding to needs and looking ahead at what we think those needs are going to be and then preparing for that. You've got to balance all of those issues in terms of what drives the downtown business. And in one case it may be transit, in another case it may not be. So, that's that composite decision, not a single one that JTA can make on its own.
Now the question is, will the commitment be there on the part of businesses that are outside of Jacksonville, those who want to expand and those who believe in Jacksonville as not just an NFL city, but as a major metropolitan area on the rise.
In downtown Jacksonville, Terry Casey for Making Moves.
Of the 7 proposed people mover projects, only 3 were ever built: Jacksonville, Miami, and Detroit. Well, this was absolutely a fascinating report, but I think that most people really were surprised to see that it was a citywide effort, that government was involved, citizens were also extremely involved in this.
Well, Joyce, and what I've said, transportation projects, those projects do not occur in a vacuum. So there's always an extensive public process involved in everything that we do, whether it's the Danes Point Bridge or the Wonderwood expressway system or the Mayport flyover. It's part of what we do. And so the Skyway, the story needs to be told that the Skyway we were in competition with other cities, and it was a state-of-the-art technology. Jacksonville was perceived to be the up-and-coming bold city of Florida, with some 100,000 people living and working in downtown Jacksonville. So the overall concept was designed in terms of being able to create more what we call a pedestrian atmosphere downtown and using the Skyway as a main circulator. So we had a tremendous amount of public input and engagement in terms of how that system came about.
And interestingly enough, since it was, just like you said, it was an economic situation that happened in downtown. The business just wasn't there. People were losing jobs. They weren't coming downtown as much. We never saw that traffic that we thought we were going to get.
And we saw this big flight of people leaving downtown going to the suburban areas. And so immediately after that, you saw the emergence of these suburban work centers that we're now trying to service today. Mm-hmm. And so I think this effort now that Mayor Brown is really serving as a drum major, if you will, try to get Jacksonville downtown back, get some lifeblood back in downtown Jacksonville in terms of its overall development. So I think that's where we're headed, and as Jacksonville unfolds, downtown Jacksonville unfolds, we bring all of the pieces together. I think you'll see the vitality and the overall usefulness of the Skyway being a critical link in terms of that transportation network.
But now it's time for your final thoughts.
Well, just let's chat a bit about, we're experiencing...
Put me on the spot, okay.
Well, we're experiencing today over 1 million boardings a month, and that's been a trend that's continued since October, and that's pretty tremendous for the organization in that we have been re-engineering the transit system really for the past 2 years, and the work is continuing. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about that you guys are going to be doing is featuring more stories about some of the experiences that our customers are having riding the system. And I just really get a big kick out of some of the things that we just wouldn't even think of in terms of the type of challenges that a lot of the riders do have. But once they learn and get over their fears about using public transportation, they find it's quite a jewel.
It really is amazing. I mean, we have stories of people who actually ride their bicycles and then jump on a JTA bus. We have a lot of students now, of course. We know that we have so many more students who are riding the bus. We even had one story about a man who wrote a book while riding the JTA bus. So there are a lot of stories out there, and we just really want to encourage our viewers to let us know your story.
Well, I think the public's perception is beginning to change now, because it's really about the economics of being able to park your car, and if you can use a transit system that's convenient for you. And that's part of what this re-engineering that we'll face with today, is trying to design a system that takes you where you want to go, when you want to go, in a lot faster, in a more faster manner. So I want to encourage our customers and our viewers to continue to ride the system, get to learn the system. But I think it's really, really encouraging that people now are changing their perceptions about using public transportation.
And gas prices aren't helping at all.
Not at all. And even with the face of after you saw the spike, you know, in terms of gas pricing increase, and then we saw a little slight decline, the ridership continued to go to increase. And so I want to just encourage our riders to, and our customers and our viewers to continue to partake in this transportation system.
And of course, in these economic times, when you're thinking about how you can start really saving money and really cutting back, this is a great way to do it. I mean, we need our cars just because of how we're spaced in this area, but to occasionally put in a ride on transit makes a big difference.
Yeah, and we have a lot of people, Joyce, that are basically using both. I mean, they would drive their cars a couple of days. Well, they would drive their cars on Fridays, but use the buses from Monday through Thursday. And so that's a big change. We're seeing that, and we just recently finished a what we call the origin and destination study, which revealed to us that over 51% of our customers are going to work. And that's, again, that's another tap toward economic development in Jacksonville. So the ability for people to access public transportation, to get to work, thereby reducing their cost of transportation by not having to drive an automobile, that helps the economy as well.
Okay, thanks so much. And that wraps up this edition of Making Moves. We hope you'll be joining us again real soon. If you missed any part of the show, or you just want to watch it again, complete episodes of Making Move are always available online at jtafla.com. And of course, make sure to stay in touch with us on Facebook. For the entire Making Moves team, I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. We'll see you the next time we're Making Moves.